And shortly after we bought these radio stations, imagine this, 23 years ago and almost 14 days ago, I was on a hayride this month. I usually don't come out in the month of October, but I'd do anything for Guy Murphy. So we came out, there was a hayride, and we were having a great time. We're singing, we're laughing, hey, great time, great time. And all of a sudden somebody on the hayride says, hey, man, I see a fire. There's a fire over there. It looks like it's coming from your barn. I said, nah, it ain't coming from the barn. Pretty soon I looked, and it did look like it was coming from the barn. So rather than disturb everybody, and they're having such a great time, I got up to the side, and there was about 18 of us on the wagon, and an old tractor was pulling us. And I got up to the side, and I realized that I could probably run faster than this old tractor could pull us. So in an anxious moment, I jumped. But when I jumped, I didn't fall, but I couldn't get out of the way fast enough, and the wheels came and caught me and knocked me down and run me over and then sucked me under the wheels, and I was pinned under there. And so they're dragging me. The guy's dragging me, because now about this time, he's realizing it is the barn. And he's so engrossed in the barn, because we had horses, we had everything. And the people on the wagon are hollering, stop, stop. They think I'm dead. They saw me sucked up under the wheels. They said, stop, stop, stop. And he can't imagine why anybody would say stop. And all of a sudden, he turns around and he looks, and he sees me caught up under there. And so in his anxious moment, he stops, and he throws it into reverse. And in his effort to free me, he backs back up and rolls back over my leg. So I slithered to the side, and I lay there. This is like your worst nightmare. Anyway, as Father Frieda would say, make a long story short, what happens is we can't get an ambulance. This is Halloween. I can't, I don't do Halloween. I don't come out. And they couldn't get an ambulance. They couldn't get a fire truck. They couldn't get anything. And I laid in the side of the road. And finally, somebody came. They had a car. They laid me down. They bring me to the hospital. They rushed me into the hospital. They came back. And I'm sure I must have laid there like almost an hour before somebody took me in a car. And they bring me to this is in a rural area. So they bring me to this small hospital. You want to know the truth? It was like a glorified first aid station or something, it's like rural. And they bring me there, and they say, they hurry up and they x-ray, and they come out and they say, it's the worst break we've ever seen. Your tibia and your fibia are both broke twice. Your ankle's totally crushed, and you have no pulse, and you've laid in the road too long, and we're going to have to amputate your leg. And I said, well, I'd like a second opinion. So we rush to another hospital, to which we do get another doctor, and a doctor comes out, and he says, I'm going to confirm it. He said, it is one of the worst breaks. He said, here's the problem. He said, your tibia and your fibia are both broke twice, and your ankle's totally crushed. So he said, there's nothing we can pin or screw it to, and there's no thing to put a plate into it. But the good news is we're starting to get a pulse. So we think that maybe we can do some manipulation to your leg and eventually get you into a brace, much like a polio brace, that you would be able to keep your leg and we won't have to cut it off. That's all I wanted to hear. Don't cut my leg off. I don't care if I got to take it and tie it with a rope to a skateboard and drag it. Just don't cut it off. That's good enough. So they take me in there, and that's what they do. Now, I'm forgetting that this is going to be a long thing, and everything I have is resting on these radio stations that I just bought. We just bought these radio stations with my partner. Now, my partner is out walking his Doberman Pinscher, and he trips on the sidewalk and pulls all the ligaments in his leg, and he ends up in the same hospital. Now, he can't work. I'm laying there, so, So here I am. I have no money. Everything I have is riding on this. And I lay there. Now I want to tell you something. Every day the phone would ring. And it would be the bill collector. If ever in your life you ever think that nobody cares if you live or die, miss one credit card payment. Oh, they care. They called all the time, and all the threatening things they were going to do to me, and all they were going to do this, and all they were going to do that. And I put up with it, till one time I said to the lady, lady, listen, let me tell you what happened to me. And I told her everything. And I said, let me tell you something. Sitting next to me on this nightstand is a whole bunch of pills. And when I hang up this phone, I'm going to take all these pills and commit suicide. I'm going to kill myself. She said, well, wait a minute, Miss Vance. Maybe you can send us just $50. It's true. Oh, they care. So all I could do was lay there. And I'm going through this, and I had I never, you never think of these things happening. I never planned for this. High risk, high reward. Never planned for this. And I'm laying there. And I have nothing to go back on. And enters my good Catholic cradle friend that was on the wagon with me and saw me get sucked under the wagon along with some other people. And so she comes and she starts visiting me. And about this time, now this is in 1986. Now, in New Orleans, there had been a story done, and it started in 81, but it hit like our local affiliate picked up the news on this, and it was going everywhere, and Medjugorje was like on fire, and everybody was talking about Medjugorje. So what started happening is some of the churches, priests were starting up Friday night devotions, where they said the rosary, they would do this, they would do that, and then after that, somebody would come up that had been to Medjugorje and talk about it. So she began to go to those Friday night devotions. And then she would stop by and talk to me and tell me about that. I'm not Catholic. I'm not anything. And I'd listen to her. And I'd say, uh-huh. And she said, well, you see, these people go over there. And everything in their life that never mattered suddenly matters. And everything that matters suddenly didn't matter. I said, well, I'm real happy for them people. That's wonderful. Why are you telling me this? Well, she said, you see, if it's God's will for you to lose everything, I'd like you to have the grace to accept it. Well, isn't that special?